Steve, a new home today is typically a tabula rasa that gets painted, decorated, furnished, and landscaped. And over time, paint, flooring, fixtures, systems, furnishings get upgraded or replaced. But for homes like the Loblolly house or the Cellophane house, systems, structures, spaces, and surfaces are far more holistically integrated. If such integration was the pattern for future housing, how might we expect homeowners to approach decorating or furnishing or upgrading their homes differently than they do today?
We might expect to see a shift going ahead that's more focused on leaving walls intact and focusing more on furniture as the element of style within a house, and fewer things that are necessarily attached to the walls of the building. Just a guess, but I think there are a lot of reasons for that possible trend. One is that, for instance, in Loblolly House, it has wood walls that are naturally finished, and they don't really need any attention other than occasional cleaning, possibly for 60, 70 years. And you can change the life cycle cost of a dwelling significantly by putting in materials like that, naturally finished materials that don't require constant renewal, whether it's painting or wallpapering, and have warmth and interest to them, and not have to bear that expense, not have to bear the expenses of, and the environmental expenses, either of toxic paints, adhesive, things like that in the building, and the off-gassing associated with them. So I think there are a lot of lifestyle reasons behind that as well. Potentially people are moving a lot more, and investing more in permanent things that are fixed to a dwelling is becoming, I think, less and less desirable from that perspective. So overall, I think it's an important question. I think there's some changes in the home furnishings industry, so to speak, that we'll be seeing in the years ahead. Personally, I wouldn't want to be in the wallpaper business, because I think that other types of finishes that are more permanent may well lie ahead, across the industry as a whole.
Will houses of the future even be able to be upgraded or improved, or will they need to be, quote unquote, refabricated in part or in whole? For example, would a kitchen or bathroom module be replaced as opposed to new fixtures or flooring being installed and walls painted?
I can foresee a time when, instead of going through all of the difficulty of living through a home renovation that comes along with bathrooms and kitchens, and we've all done it, you're disrupted for a substantial period of time. There's a lot of dirt and dust in your house. You're without the use of important equipment in the house. You could easily foresee a time coming ahead where, instead of doing that, these elements could be basically unclipped from the house and pulled out, and new ones walked in and plugged in. And the convenience of it is dramatically different. You could also start to imagine aftermarkets in the same way we have used cars. You can have a used bathroom or a used kitchen, things like that would start to crop up. And you could potentially see an industry out there that's quite different than the one we know now, where we're buying a toilet and a sink. Instead of that, you buy a shell of a bathroom with the fixtures already integrated to it, and they're just simply quick coupled into the infrastructure of the house, the plumbing infrastructure, the electrical infrastructure, and that's it.
Okay, so in this brave new world, is there still a place for the homeowner as a do-it-yourselfer in making home improvements? And how might that role really be different in the future?
That's a real popular thing to actually, as a homeowner, get your tools and go to work on the house. And, again, going ahead, if in fact building components are modularized into larger and larger elements, it won't completely eliminate the capacity of the homeowner to tinker and change and tune things, but it will change it. Let's put it that way. They'll be more sophisticated, more holistically integrated into larger elements. And, they could certainly in part maybe be disassembled, but less likely. That whole question of, the home improvement industry might really start to shift in the years ahead. Instead of seeing aisles with, thousands of individual parts and plumbing fittings, you might really see a more limited number of parts that are larger and aggregated and whole that are being sold whole as opposed to as individual parts. And, that you could still have a homeowner potentially install those things. In fact, it might even be easier going ahead, frankly, for homeowners to do things that they're not doing on their own today. For instance, that bathroom that I described, you could imagine actually not needing plumbers and electricians to do this work. If that element can be basically clipped in and quick coupled, anybody could do it. It's just like screwing a garden hose onto a faucet spigot. Things I think would be really shifting in that regard and in that whole realm in some exciting ways, important ways. Just imagine a Home Depot aisle where, you don't have literally millions of parts for sale, just a more limited number. And that may well lie ahead for us.
So, Steve, we've been talking a little bit about the implications for the home improvements industries. And what about, though, the construction industry, too, which is really geared for on-site construction and more of an incremental approach to renovations and improvements? What's the implication there for those industries?
Well, if more and more work starts to shift off-site into factories, the locus for employment, one could expect to shift from more field work to more factory work. Wouldn't necessarily cut the number of jobs. It might, but you'd see a change in where one's working. You could see lots of enhancements to worker safety and productivity if you're working off-site in controlled factory settings compared to on-site in rather dangerous, uncontrolled or less controlled settings. I think you'd see even changes in who's doing construction work. You could expect to see, and we already see in factories, significantly more women working in construction-related activities than we see in the field. So I think there are a lot of demographic shifts that would come potentially with that change as well. Labor costs in the field, escalate continuously, in seemingly uncontrolled ways, and it's hard to really enhance productivity in the field compared to the productivity that you could affect actually working more off-site in a factory. So, there could be some real gains overall for the construction industry with more off-site work. But it would certainly change, it would change the labor factor compared to the way we think about it today.